In a prosperous kingdom surrounded by imposing mountains and crystal-clear rivers, there stood a majestic sacred mountain. For the people of this kingdom, the mountain was far more than a mere formation of stone and earth. It was a symbol of life, prosperity, and protection. The ancestral spirits, who had dwelled in the dormant volcano for centuries, were venerated through sacred rituals. It was believed that their benevolence ensured bountiful harvests and perpetually pure waters. However, Princess Chima, the only daughter of the powerful King Kalu, did not share this devotion. From a young age, Chima had grown up in the luxury of the palace, with everything she desired within her reach. She was beautiful and astute, but her beauty was overshadowed by her impulsive and disrespectful behavior. Chima scorned the rituals and the warnings of the elders, dismissing her people's traditions as superstitious and outdated. She prided herself on being a modern, independent young woman who disdained the customs that shaped her kingdom's identity. One sunny morning, Chima stood on the palace balcony, observing from afar the preparations for the Festival of the Spirits. Each year, the kingdom gathered at the foot of the mountain to offer gifts and dance in honor of the ancestral spirits who maintained harmony between nature and humanity. But for Chima, it was just another wasted day in pointless celebrations. Her most loyal servant, Nne, tried to convince her to participate, but the princess only laughed. Nne, please don't talk to me about these old and tired spirits. All of this is just a show to keep the people submissive, said Chima, her eyes shining with the arrogance of someone who believed she was above it all. The festival began at dusk, with the entire kingdom celebrating. King Kanu, dressed in ceremonial attire, led the rituals with reverence. The elders sang sacred songs, and the villagers placed offerings of fruits, flowers, and precious artifacts around the fire burning in honor of the spirits. But in the middle of the ceremony, Princess Chima, bored and seeking attention, abruptly interrupted everything. She descended from the palace and marched to the grand square, where the villagers had gathered around the offerings. Without announcement, Chima walked up to the central altar under the shocked gazes of the elders and her father. She seized one of the most precious offerings, an ancient golden necklace believed to have been given by the spirits themselves to the kingdom's first queen, and threw it to the ground. "Do you really think these foolish offerings can appease imaginary spirits?" she mocked, her voice echoing in the sudden silence of the square. The people stood paralyzed. King Kanu, furious, rose from his ceremonial throne. But before he could reprimand her, the ground began to tremble slightly. Small stones rolled down the mountain slopes, and the waters of the nearby river began to stir. The once clear sky darkened with heavy, menacing clouds. The elders sensed the imminent danger. The chief elder, Guru, murmured gravely, "The princess has offended the spirits. The mountain is awakening." Later that night, in the royal hall, the council of elders gathered to discuss the strange events. King Kanu, anguished by his daughter's behavior and the evident signs of the spirit's anger, consulted Guru. The elder explained that the mountain's spirits were offended and that their wrath would only cease with an adequate sacrifice. "The spirits demand the restoration of harmony," Guru said solemnly. "They ask for the sacrifice of the one who dishonoured them. They demand Chima." The king was shocked, and the hall fell into a heavy silence. He knew Chima had made a grave mistake, but sacrificing his daughter was something he couldn't even imagine. The kingdom was in danger, but his fatherly heart refused to accept the spirit's verdict. Chima, upon learning of her sentence, was no less furious. She was confined to her chambers when Eneni came to inform her of the elder's decision. The princess burst into contemptuous laughter. Sacrifice? They are crazy. I won't bow to these spirits or my father. I don't need anyone to save me. Determined to escape her fate, Chima used the cover of night to flee the palace. She donned a cloak to disguise her identity and headed into the forest toward the mountains. Her plan was simple: flee until the situation calmed down. She was convinced that, with time, everyone would forget about this absurd sacrifice, and everything would return to normal. However, as Chima climbed the slopes of the mountain, she felt the air grow denser, charged with an energy she had never experienced before. The trees seemed to whisper as she passed, and the wind blew with increasing intensity. Chima didn't realize it, but her escape did not go unnoticed by the spirits. As she moved further from her kingdom, the ground continued to tremble, and the volcano, dormant for so long, began to stir awake. The full moon floated in the sky, bathing the mountain in a pale light as Chima ran through the dense forest on the slopes of the volcano. The wind whipped her face, but she was determined to escape. As the tremors intensified with each step, Chima felt a growing fear, but her resolve kept her moving. Her bare feet pressed against the cold stones, and the air grew thinner as she ascended toward the higher parts of the mountain. Chima believed she could escape the destiny imposed by the elders, but as she moved forward, the signs of destruction became more apparent. The once crystal-clear streams were dry, and the trees, previously green, were now brittle and lifeless. Small villages at the forest's edge had been destroyed by landslides caused by the volcano's tremors. Children cried, and mothers looked skyward in search of answers. Chima began to feel the weight of her conscience, though she could not yet accept responsibility. During her flight, Chima encountered an elder from one of the villages. Though he was blind, his spiritual senses were sharp. As she passed near him, he called out to her. "You are Chima, aren't you?" he said, his voice serene but full of wisdom. "You're trying to run, but you cannot escape your destiny. The spirits are waiting for you on the mountain." Chima froze, hesitant. For a moment, she thought of ignoring him and continuing on her way, but something in his tone made her stop. The elder pointed toward the mountain. "The mountain calls to you, but it's not death you will meet, it's the truth you've been fleeing." Without another word, he continued on his way, leaving Chima alone, confused. Though hesitant, she continued her journey. By nightfall, Chima reached the base of the mountain. The path to the summit was steep and shrouded in thick mist, making each step more difficult. The once subtle tremors were now intense. Tina felt the heat rise as she climbed, knowing she was nearing the volcano's mouth. Suddenly, a towering figure appeared before her, the guardian of the volcano. It was made of living rock, with glowing veins of molten lava running through its cracks. Its eyes shone with an ancient light, and its presence exuded power and authority. Chima tried to retreat, but she felt something holding her firmly in place, as though the mountain itself had seized her. "Princess Chima," the guardian said in a deep voice that seemed to resonate from the heart of the earth. "You have dishonored the spirits, but your flight will not lead to redemption. You must face what you have wrought." For the first time, Chima felt the weight of her actions. She wanted to argue, but the words caught in her throat. The guardian continued, "The spirits do not demand your death, they demand that you confront the truth." Go to the summit and see for yourself what has transpired. Only then will you understand. Terrified yet knowing she could no longer flee, Chima pressed on. The guardian turned and disappeared into the mist, leaving her with only one path to the volcano's summit. As Chima ascended in silence, she felt a new sensation, acceptance. Though uncertain of what awaited her, she no longer resisted her fate. With each step, the heat intensified, and the ground pulsed with life. As she climbed, visions flooded her mind. It was as if the spirits were communicating with her, showing her fragments of the past. She saw her people, generations ago, offering prayers and gifts to the mountain, maintaining a delicate balance between humans and spirits. The ceremonies were performed with devotion, and the mountain rewarded this veneration with fertility, protection, and abundance. But then Chima saw images of her own actions. Disrespecting the rituals, mocking the traditions, and ignoring the elders' warnings. With each scene, the mountain's tremors grew stronger, and the once pure waters began to dry up. The final vision showed her a future of destruction, a volcanic eruption consuming her kingdom, the land blanketed in ash and fire. Chima fell to her knees, devastated by the realization that her arrogance had endangered everything. "What have I done?" she murmured, tears streaming down her face. Chima reached the volcano's summit at dawn. The volcano's mouth smoked, and molten lava bubbled below, emitting an orange glow. She knew she had arrived at the crucial moment. Warriors from the kingdom, sent by the king, awaited her there. They were ready to carry out the sacrifice decreed by the elders. Seeing his daughter, King Kalu hesitated. He loved her, but he knew the fate of the entire kingdom was at stake. The elders urged him to proceed with the ritual. Chima, seeing the despair on her father's face, stood with newfound determination. "Father, I understand now," she said, her voice filled with regret. "I have done terrible things, but I am ready to accept my fate. If my life is what the spirits demand, then so be it." Chima approached the edge of the volcano. The king, heartbroken, gave the order for the sacrifice. The warriors chanted sacred songs as Chima cast one last look at her kingdom before leaping into the flames. But instead of being consumed by the lava, something miraculous happened. The volcano's fire enveloped her like a cocoon, and Chima was lifted out of the abyss, transformed. Her skin glowed like embers, and golden scales covered her body. Instead of legs, she now had a long tail surrounded by living flames. She had not been destroyed, she had been reborn as the fire siren, the guardian of the spirits and the volcano. And so, Chima, once a defiant princess, embraced her destiny as the fire siren, bridging the realms of humans and spirits. Her transformation became a tale of redemption, ensuring the harmony of the mountain and her people for generations to come. Stay tuned to find out what happens next. If you've enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share it with your loved ones. Until we meet again, take care.